Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Oner First Thoughts. This is the edition of our show that is spoiler-free. If you want the spoiler-laden talk for the show, that is on the full episode of the show. They're longer episodes. They're over there on the channel. You can check that out. But this week we are talking about David Robert Mitchell's new film, The End of Oak Street, in theaters right now, starring Ewan McGregor and Anne Hathaway. Go check this one out. Go see it. It's a big summer blockbuster, and Hollywood's been cranking them out of the park this summer. There's not much I can say about this film without getting into spoilers. Everything that I can say about this film is what is represented by the marketing, which honestly is a lot. So if you've seen a trailer for this movie, you basically have got it plot-wise. Similar to David Robert Mitchell's first film, It Follows, the premise is incredibly simple. And It Follows, which is, we just covered that on the last episode of the show. If you want to go watch the last episode of our show, we covered that movie. It's just a demon that is transmitted when teenagers have sex with each other. It's a, kind of a play on an 80s horror movie trope. It's a very simple premise. This thing is following this girl, and her friends are trying to get rid of this thing that is slowly following her. That's the entire movie. Similarly, here on The End of Oak Street, we've got a very simple premise. This family in kind of an idyllic 1980s suburb is transported back in time to dinosaur times. And it's not just the family, it's their entire neighborhood. The entire neighborhood is somehow scooped up and transported back in time. And again, this is not really a spoiler. This is all in the marketing for the film. That's the premise of the film. That's what the movie's about. And honestly, plot-wise, the movie doesn't really do much to elaborate on that plot. It's just sort of the neighborhood is in the middle of a dinosaur jungle, and all of the neighbors have to deal with that situation, and that's the film. This movie is getting pretty well reviewed right now, and I think I know why. Unfortunately, I'm probably going to have to go watch it again because my experience was kind of ruined by the theater that I watched it in. I say this about the internet from time to time. I say it's great that the internet exists because everybody gets to have their own show if they want one. It's like public access TV, but anybody can have a show. Anyone can have a channel on YouTube. Anyone can have a channel on TikTok. Anyone can have a channel on Instagram. And that's really cool. But the downside is anyone can have their own show. So it's cool that everybody gets to have their own show. And it's also not great because a lot of people aren't great. And people will go and make channels that are you wish they didn't exist, and people will make content that you wish they didn't make and you wish you didn't have to see and come across sometimes when you're scrolling. And it's similar with the movie theater. On this channel, on The Oner, we are big proponents of going and seeing films in the theater, supporting movies in the theater. We are very nostalgic about the theater experience. Kramer and I grew up as next door neighbors. Going to the movies all the time was one of our favorite pastimes. We love seeing movies in the theater. The cool thing about seeing a movie in the theater, it's not just that you're in this like really dark, big black box where the only thing to focus on is the screen. It's not just the opportunity to turn your phone off for 2 hours and really focus on a story. Those things are great. The sound is great. The visuals are better in a theater. But there is this cool thing of like experiencing something with an audience. And when an audience is all locked in and on the same page, the experience can be second to none. Think about when you went and saw, Avengers Endgame in a theater on opening night and everyone was like cheering together in unison, and those group reactions when you watch a horror film and everyone is gasping and everyone's jumping at the same time and recoiling at the jump scares at the same time, or watching a comedy and the whole theater's laughing together at the right moments, and that feeling of communally experiencing a story for the first time, a new movie, and everyone getting the information for the first time, the reveals, the twists, the turns, all happening at the same time. When an audience is locked in together, it can really be a special experience. The downside is sometimes watching a movie with a group of strangers can be really hard, because when you're having one experience but the room is having a different experience, it can be really tough to focus. From the opening moments of this film, what I will say is like the stuff that Kramer and I are going to have to talk about on in the spoiler edition of the show is the spoilers are it's not really the plot. It's not, this family in their neighborhood get transported back to dinosaur times. The spoiler is the tone of the film. It's very clear from the just opening notes of the musical score by Michael Giacchino what kind of movie David Robert Mitchell is making and the tone that he wants to present us with. And he's very good at this as a filmmaker. He does this with It Follows. He really sets a tone early on and tells us you're watching a horror film in the vein of like a 1980s, De Palma or Carpenter style. And I really like how good he is at establishing tone and vibe. And he does that here with Oak Street. It's really, really clear what kind of tone and what kind of vibe he's going for. My theater just, for whatever reason, decided as a group that they weren't down with it. They didn't like it. And it was about halfway through. It started with one group of people, one group of audience members just turned on the film at about the halfway mark, and they decided to heckle it. And then slowly that infected the rest of the audience. I was hoping that the audience would be on my side and that everyone would be like, hey, you guys shut up. We're trying to watch this thing and you're ruining it. But it was this thing where like mob mentality kicked in, and slowly people started feeling embarrassed for liking the movie or for having a good experience with the movie or for at least giving the movie a chance. And since this small group of hecklers were being so loud and they were making fun of the movie and laughing at all of the wrong parts, eventually it spread to the entire audience to the point where I was the only one not doing it. And I was in a room full of people who were all just like violently making fun of this movie, and every single moment that was supposed to land with some kind of like, it was supposed to be a scare or it was supposed to be emotional, it was supposed to be a good moment for the characters, my theater was just uproariously laughing at it and pointing at the screen. And like, it wasn't the good kind of laughter. It wasn't laughter where the movie wants you to laugh. It was laughter in all the wrong places. It was laughter at the film for daring to exist in the way that it does. And it did unfortunately ruin the experience for me. I was also sitting next to a guy who kept checking text messages on his Apple Watch. Yes, that counts, people. Just because you're not looking at your phone, you looking at texts and reading things on your watch, that counts. That's still distracting. That's like, man, it's the double-edged sword of experiencing a movie in a theater with people. So I'm gonna have to go back and watch this one again because honestly, at the end of it, I'm not sure how I felt. And I will say this. I wasn't sure how I felt about the tone of this film before the hecklers turned on it. I was already kind of like, I'm not sure if this is really working for me. And then the hecklers turned on it. And then I was just more mad about that than I was able to pay attention to the rest of the film. And I'm still, like at the end of the movie, I'm like, I know what David Robert Mitchell was going for. I get what the point was of the decisions that were made stylistically. I understand how I'm supposed to take that in and what tone is being established and what kind of movie is being made. I guess I'm just not exactly sure why those choices were made. I feel like I understand them thematically in a movie like It Follows. I'm not sure if I understand them thematically as much here. It almost just seems like a reference for the sake of doing a reference. And that might be because of the theater experience I had, but it also might be because maybe it's just a style that I'm just not as into as I am, John Carpenter movies or, movies like Carrie. I don't know. This is a tough one. I'm excited to talk to Kramer about this one. There's a lot of, I will say this about the film. There are things that I liked. I like that this movie's got like a lot of bite to it. Like there is this sort of mixture of styles of like this kind of movie that David Robert Mitchell is doing an homage to, but then also like because it's a dinosaur movie, he allows the dinosaur moments to really have a lot of like real punch and doesn't shy away from like the gore. There's dinosaurs just like ripping people to pieces in this movie, and that's really fun. But I can't really say much more about my conflicted feelings on it until we get into spoilers. So I'm going to let Kramer tell you what his initial thoughts were, and then check back in with us when we get together to do the full spoiler talk later on. Okay, take it away, Kramer.
Thanks, buddy. Okay, The End of Oak Street is out in theaters now, and here are my first thoughts. This was a lot of fun for me. I really enjoyed this movie. I took my two boys. I wanted to have a fun time. I wanted to enjoy myself. I wanted to be kind of scared, excited, and I got what I wanted. I had a lot of fun. I have seen some differing opinions on this movie. Mostly, it seems to be positive. Some of it is, some people are kind of critiquing it, but still saying it's fun. And I get where everybody's coming from. I get certain things because I really enjoyed this movie because I kept my expectations simple. I just wanted to have fun. I just wanted to enjoy the ride, and I think that's a good mindset going into this film. Just enjoy the ride, like have fun, because there are some great moments. Now if you're looking for something a little bit deeper, I was hoping that it might be a little bit deeper because It Follows had a lot going for it. It Follows had a lot of layers and a lot of symbolism and things like that, and this didn't seem to have anywhere near as much. And that's okay. It wasn't a bad thing, but I was kind of hoping that I would possibly get that. Now, I literally just came 2 hours from seeing the movie. So I need to look into it more. Maybe there's something that I'm missing, which is very, very possible. But it was a little more surface level than I was kind of hoping for. Or at least if I got that, I would have been happy. Right. But I still really enjoyed this movie. It's a lot of fun. There's a lot of really intense moments. And there's a lot of times where it really made me feel a lot of different emotions: excited, scared, happy, sad, really scared. I already said scared, but it was there were parts that were pretty scary. But overall, I was always interested in the movie. And that's, like we've talked about before, like me and Austin have talked about before. If you can keep the movie interesting, if you can keep the movie entertaining, that's a huge feat. And that's what this did. It kept me entertained and it kept me involved in the story. Now, I could have seen it could have gone multiple different ways. It could have done a lot of different things, but I'm happy with what I got. And I think David Robert Mitchell did a really good job in many, many ways. So I had fun with this movie. There are flaws. I'm going to go over some of these flaws just and keep it spoiler free. But I'm going to go over some of these things. So some scenes were a little inconsequential. There were some things that happened that it felt a little. There were a couple scenes that felt a little bit more like, oh, this is just kind of for excitement rather than any sort of story purpose. It was kind of like, oh, maybe the movie's slowing down here, so let's just have an intense sequence in there. And if you were to take that out of the movie, it would still be the same. There would be no change in the movie. You basically cut that sequence out, and it would be fine. So that was always a little. That was kind of like, okay, why do we have that? But again, the sequence is intense, it's interesting, and it's entertaining. So I'm fine with it. But again, I'm always a little kind of like, wait, why was that there? So just be aware of that. Sometimes that happens, right? There's also a very clear Spielberg influence here, which is fine. I knew that if you have seen the trailer, you understand what I'm talking about. There's a lot of things set in the 80s, feels very Spielbergian. Not a bad thing. It's not a bad thing. I do always wonder why filmmakers continue to go back to that. I feel like this happens with Stranger Things as well. I love Stranger Things. I absolutely love Stranger Things. But it's always kind of like, oh, this feels a little bit more like an homage than something really original. Now, Stranger Things is still original, but it also kind of feels like they're pulling a lot from other influences, um, which is kind of everything these days. But sometimes it feels a little bit like a crutch. And the reason I say that for this movie is because I don't know why it's set in 1982. That's not a spoiler. But it's set in the 80s. So I just kind of wonder, like, okay, what is it that made it have to be set in 1982? Because I feel like if you set it in today, you could still get the same effect because they go back in time and nothing would work anyway. So I thought it was interesting. I'm not exactly sure, but not a huge negative, but it was kind of there. I'm kind of like, okay, well, maybe make it a little more modern and it would feel a little more original. But again, neither here nor there. It doesn't ruin the movie. It still works really, really well. And also, as I kind of talked about, this movie was a little bit more surface level. as I said, I was hoping for a little bit more depth, but I really have to look into that more. But here's the thing: go see this movie in the theater. Go have a good time. It was a really good time. I had a lot of fun with my two boys. They had a lot of fun as well. You could definitely get a whole lot more from this movie. There could be more depth, and there could be more things going on that would imply, a deeper story and a deeper meaning. And maybe there is, if you have found that out, or if you've seen something of why it is, there are some things that I'm like, oh yeah, that, I'm going back and thinking like, oh yeah, okay, that's why that happened. That's why that happened. But it was a little bit more surface level. Let me know though if you found a really cool, deeper meaning. I'm going to look into it more. But in the meantime, honestly, go see the movie in the theater. 2026 has still been a great year for movies. Go see it. Let us know what you think in the comments. Did you love this movie? Did you hate it? What did you think of the ending of the movie? And we will also get into that in our full episode. I'm excited to get into that with Austin. But let us know your thoughts. Keep watching. We really appreciate the comments. We really appreciate the views. And keep it up. Comment all you want, and we'll comment back. But yeah, let us know your thoughts, and we will see you on the next one. Bye.